All right, we are recording, Mr. Chair, whenever you are ready.
Okay, calling the meeting of February 2026 Technology Advisory Commission to order. We don't have any public comments, do we?
Nope.
Okay, then the first order of business is to adopt the minutes. Anybody have any comments on minutes from the January 28th meeting? No comments, and I get a motion to adopt them.
So move to adopt.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Minutes are approved, so I will go to the chair's update. I want to start by handing things over to Tracy with a quick briefing for us on some of the revised rules for commission quorums and virtual participation by individual members as opposed to last week. A virtual meeting altogether. Tracy.
Yes, thank you. And so I sent you guys a summary of kind of some of the things that I am learning about that process. And so I'll hit the highlights. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I have the great opportunity to be on a committee that is revising the handbook for staff liaisons to commissions. And as a part of that exercise, we're getting a lot more clarity around some of our policies with virtual attendance and things like that. So most of the things are consistent with the way we've been operating in terms of individual virtual participation. That is certainly allowable under several conditions. One, if there is a medical condition or a disability that one of the commissioners has, that is allowable as a virtual opportunity to attend virtually. So long as you notify the chair in advance and make sure that there is permission for that from the chair. Same thing applies if you are a caregiver to a person with such a medical condition or disability. Again, just notify the chair in advance that you need to attend virtually for that reason. Those two reasons, there is no limit on the number of times you can attend virtually for those two reasons. And when you attend virtually for those two reasons with permission, it counts toward quorum. So that's all good. The third potential reason for attending virtually is for personal reasons. If you have something to attend to or some type of conflict that would prevent you from coming, that is allowable twice per year. And again, with advanced notification and permission from the chair, that's allowable twice per year. The clarification around that, though, is if you attend virtually for personal reasons, not related to medical or being a caregiver, your presence virtually does not count towards quorum. So we would have to have quorum outside of those who are attending. Does that make sense? The only other clarification that was a bit different from the way we've been operating is when you attend virtually, the expectation is that you are on camera the entire time. We previously thought that was required only when we took a vote. And the clarification is that anyone attending virtually should be on camera the entire time, or if you go off camera, it's the equivalent of having stepped out of the room. And so if your presence virtually is what helps us meet quorum, you go off camera, it's the same as stepping out of the room, we lose quorum, potentially, if we don't have enough members present. So that's the clarification around that one, a little bit nuanced from what we thought it was. Questions about that? I think the rest
Has
of
this been
it.
codified yet?
I think it has. I will double check that.
I guess my follow-on question would be, what's the consequence of losing quorum if somebody's off camera?
If we lose quorum in the middle of a meeting, so if we lose quorum before a meeting has started, we don't have quorum, we can't start the meeting until quorum returns. If we lose quorum in the middle of the meeting and we're in a discussion or a presentation, we can allow that to continue to see if quorum resumes at some point during the discussion. If it doesn't, then when that presentation concludes, we can't have substantive discussion about that presentation until we get quorum back. And so that may mean postponing your discussion next meeting.
And the same goes for motions.
Can you remind me what the number is for quorum?
In our case, because we have 13 members, it would be 7 is the minimum for quorum.
More than that.
So I'll certainly pass along any other updates if we get clarifications that seem a little different or something we need to be aware of. But those were the big ones that I just wanted you to know that we're learning. As far as I know, the clarifications that they're making are based on Virginia code and legal interpretation of that. How much is explicit in the code is a little bit gray to me, but I'll keep you posted as that gets finalized. I believe they're also making some similar revisions to the commissioner's handbook. I think that comes to, especially to chairs and vice chairs, but I think you all get a copy of that too as commissioners. I'm not a part of that effort, but certainly when they get the new revisions published, I'll make sure that you all get a copy of that.
It's also posted and available to the public.
Yep. I think that's it.
Thank you, Tracy. I read the current advisory committee handbook, which was released in 2014, and it said, among other things, that a yearly visit from board liaison was good practice. So I invited Takis to come tonight, but he had a conflict. He will be here next month, March. But we had an interesting chat. He has an assignment for the year. He would like us to appraise Ava. Ava is the chatbot on the Arlington County website. It stands for Arlington's Virtual Assistant. It's a little red box at the bottom right-hand corner of the web page. So if between now and March 25th, you could take a moment and play with it, we will have an informed discussion with Takis. In addition to that, we will be getting a background briefing, Holly and David, who joins us on Ava and what its capacities are and what its growth potential may be. So that will come in a few minutes. First, however, Frank has a legislative update.
Just touch on it quickly. I sent it around for the record. Interesting report from the Phoenix Center that based on the FCC's urban rate survey shows that broadband prices have declined 7 to 9% between 2020 and 2024.
That's nationwide.
That is, yes, but it's, I guess it's an urban rate, so I'm assuming it may be just urbanized areas. I think that this survey, and there was actually another study that disagreed, but
Yeah, Frank, I would add Phoenix Center kind of skews things.
right.
It's somewhat ideal.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
You know, not to be taken as
Yeah.
just.
What was the date? Since when?
2024 to 2025. So, FCC has released a public notice seeking comment on the impacts of the January 14th Verizon wireless outage. And they're looking for comments from both consumers, public safety entities, and government entities, and whether there was any impact on 911 service. Last month, the FCC adopted an order to enhance unlicensed use of the 6 gigahertz band. The order creates a new class of unlicensed devices, geofenced variable power GVP devices, which can operate both indoors and outdoors at higher power than previously authorized unlicensed devices. The FCC adopted a notice of proposed rulemaking seeking reforms to the Lifeline program to ideological to enhance integrity and eliminate fraud. But this is the program that provides a $9.25 monthly subsidy for low-income households for telecom services. Arlington-based Federated Wireless has initiated commercial support for active distributed antenna system in the 3.5 gigahertz CBRS band. And active DAS would enable wireless networks to expand indoor 5G capacity without using licensed spectrum. The House Communications Technology Subcommittee passed 6 public safety communications bills onto the full Energy and Commerce Committee that seek to upgrade 911 call centers, improve wireless emergency alerting, improve outage reporting, among other things. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, issued guidance on the risk AI poses to operational technology, OT, and how AI implementations might lead to data breaches and other threats across many OT environments that manage essential public services. That's a report.
Thank you. Speaking of AI, I'm going to actually run through the items in number 6 in the reverse order. I was noodling around with the idea that snow removal could be a good use case for use of AI. And I asked Tracy, you have that slide just as a benchmark. Here are statistics of use of the website during the previous snow creep. Now, I don't know how to put those in the context. There we go.
A little bit bigger.
And so I'll just walk you through what this slide is. So on the left are page views by discrete page that are straight up from those sites that are listed on the left there. The snow phases page, which is the page that explains the phases by which our facilities, streets folks clear the snow. Snow and ice page, the snow ordinance page about what's required with regard to clearing sidewalks and streets, and then the closings and cancellation page. So that gives you an idea of the volume of hits basically on those pages during the period from January 24 to February 14, which was kind of during the I was going to say the heat of it, but that's not an appropriate phrase for that particular time period. So that's what you see on the left. On the right, our friends from the Environmental Services Group provided some information about the issues that were reported via their phase 2 online form. What that means is that form opens up after primary streets have been addressed to allow folks to begin to report where they see problem areas. And they have a bit of a staggered approach to what folks can select on that form based on kind of what phase they're in. So if we need more information about that, I think our friends from the Department of Environmental Services would be more than willing to come and present a little more information. But that gives you some idea of the things, the issues that were reported via that form. Street plowing, sidewalk concerns, other miscellaneous, icy streets, the bus stops, and some of the trails.
Terrific. We'll keep that in. So I got interested in snow removal because in my neighborhood in Westover, we have a service where people can volunteer to shovel driveways and walkways, which the county does not do. And then I discovered Snow Buddy. Snow Buddy is a volunteer program in Alexandria. It actually came up at the board meeting last night, and county manager and several of the county board members expressed the hope that we could have a similar program here. And I put that together with my interest in AVA, and I thought you might be able to leapfrog. Alexandria. The way it works in Alexandria is they have a service targeting people who are elderly, who have incomes below $50,000, or homebound, or disabled, and it is a matching service. If you want to be a snow buddy, you go to the website and you fill out a form, and they certify you. I don't know whether, as in New York City, they check 2 forms of ID. But once you're authorized to be a snow buddy, then when there is the first snowstorm, people go to, if they know about it, go to the web portal and make a request, and they give their address and an estimate of how much snow needs to be removed. And the volunteers who run Snow Buddy match cleaners, removers with people who need it. And the idea of the buddy means that it lasts not just for the first snow, but for the entire season. Well, that seemed to me to be something that AI could assist with or enhance. And Taki Scott looks for what that's worth. So what I wanted to do as background is talk about the possibility that Ava might have, that a program could be instituted in Arlington, similar, but with a lot less labor, fewer phone calls, that sort of thing. So as background for this, I've asked Holly, and Holly has asked David to tell us about Ava's capacities and its intended uses. So I'll turn it over to you.
I'm actually going to turn it over to David.
That's fine.
Because David and his team have an amazing job working for a while going, and actually let me start, David, sorry. You talk about Ava, and we're the Ava 2.0. David's team started well before what we know as, AI, working on trying to come up with better ways for people to engage with information they needed. So the first iteration of Ava was, I think about very basic, right? You've got almost like a spreadsheet with a bunch of list of questions of what you think someone's going to ask. And then you have to come up with responses. Not very efficient or actually really good. But what we've got now with the iteration of AI is a stepping stone to kind of what you're talking about. So what I want David to do is talk about a little bit about his history, but what he's doing now, and kind of what the future potential possibilities exist. With that, I'll turn it over to David.
Great. Let me just introduce you. Those of you who were on the board on the committee last May remember David. He is Division Chief of Digital Innovation and Cloud for the county. So he's the man to see and listen to on these sorts of matters. Now, David, please.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Holly, thanks for the amazing segue on to our first slide. So again, David Hurley, thank you very much for having me here tonight. Really appreciate this. I thoroughly enjoy talking about Ava and what we're doing with AI in the county, because it is a lot, and we're doing a lot with Ava, and we've got a pretty interesting roadmap of where we want to go with it, because view Ava as a foundation for a lot of technology, whether it's an AI agent or agentic AI, that we're going to be able to build off as it relates to citizen engagement and customer service. So going backwards to go forwards a little bit, as Holly mentioned, back in 2019, pre-Gen AI, we had created Ava 1.0. it was pretty rudimentary. It was based off of about 700 to 900 questions that were maintained in an Excel spreadsheet. And back then, I attended a lot of conferences on this and got the same answer from everybody. We didn't know what to do with the data. We didn't know how to form that data. It was wild, wild west to be able to get the right results for our users off of a bot. It was fascinating to hear that. I attended a Gartner conference about it and some other conferences, and everybody said the same thing. We just didn't know. And that predates ChatGPT, Gen AI, as I said, which has totally flipped this on its head in the most amazing way kind of conceivable in terms of AI. Fast forward, we got through COVID. We did a little bit with AI with contact tracing behind the scenes. And we kept our program going, always with the eye of we wanted to do AVA 2.0 across all of the public website. AVA 1.0 was exclusive to a couple DES websites, which were basically water, sewer, streets for the call center over there, that were getting about 40,000 calls a month, and there was about 10 to 12 call agents there. Not all of those agents were online at one time. So you can imagine that call volume coming in per day. I mean, that phone is constantly ringing. We sat over there with them and we're just amazed at the job that they did answering all of these calls that came in. So we were looking at call deflection for these frequently asked questions to get the call numbers down so they could focus on more difficult questions, whether it's billing or a more complicated issue that constituents were facing in their neighborhoods and their daily lives. So again, fast forward a couple of years, COVID, obviously delayed our plans a little bit in launching 2.0, but then Gen AI came on the scene. And meanwhile, we had continued growing our AI practice internally, growing our talent pool, our developers that we have here, our relationships in the commercial sector of who we partner with, and developing the idea of this kind of buffet or menu of AI services that we want to offer up to departments in a controlled, secure, manageable way, an efficient way of doing that. So we soft launched in June last year, AVA 2.0, after a lot of internal testing with it on the county website. But one of the things that we wanted to do is extend our reach a little bit more. So we actually include the library site. If you ask library questions on arlingtonva.us, you'll actually be able to pull information from our library site. Ultimately, long-term, we're working with the library staff so that they can have their own bot on their website similar to AVA and using the same technology. Again, recycle, reuse, allow the data to show that kind of customization specific for that website and that use case. Elections, we rolled that out last fall as well. So there's a bot on the elections website. Again, same platform. And the Arlington Transit site. We're going to be able to, as the platform grows, to be able to add more websites into this that will be able to pull data and have that same user experience. We need to work on that with the platform owner and then obviously the departments that own those websites and making sure that the data is ready and available and web content is accessible. So AI is only as good as the data you have. We spent a lot of time talking about that with folks, making sure that their data is AI ready through testing and monitoring their data and cleaning up their data and make sure we don't have repetitive data and things like that. So more of that's coming. The future of AVA, again, it only pulls from our data. We're not going out to other websites to enrich our data. One of the great things about working in Arlington and local government, I came from the private sector, is we have so much data and so many different use cases that AI is kind of that bonding glue between different data sources to be able to pull that out and use that data and create better business outcomes, whether that's improved customer service, data analytics, on down the line. It's a mobile friendly platform, so you can use this on your phone We know a lot of people are doing that. We do have multi-language support, but we need to improve on that as well with the platform. We do not collect PII, PHI, none of that. So everything is anonymous. We're not reusing that for anything. If people use that, enter that information in there. And we also importantly we're beginning to use this to improve our content on the public website. And that's based off of using the data and the inputs that users have put in there. So we are monitoring that in conjunction with CAPE to look at the content of what's trending so we can be more proactive in our responses and get that out to the department. So we're actually working with that. So say snow removal, which is a great case, shows up in our report that snow is, a big thing. So we take a look at our data. We look at the responses for that. Is our content answering the questions appropriately? We're able to look at sentiment analysis, say, yeah, this is a good experience, or no, this is a bad experience. Okay, what's the bad experience? Let's go back and look at the intent, what somebody asked in AVA, to be able to go, okay, that content probably doesn't make sense, or that's actually good. We're getting good reaction to that. Content is a very fluid thing. You're never 100% on it. We're definitely not 100% on our website. So that's going to actually help our content editors improve what they're writing for the web. And that increases our ability to provide better customer service. So people aren't picking up the phone and calling us. Phone is very expensive. It's staff time. And it's basically money that could be spent elsewhere to free these folks up that are answering the phone, as I was saying with the DES example. What we're working on, excuse me, in the future is voice support. The vision for AVA 1.0 that we are going to do in 2.0, and we have the ability to do that, and we're working through it technically right now, are two things. So AI chat, live chat to phone. That's one interaction that we're looking at doing. And we have the technical foundation to be able to do that. The other part of this is voice support. So non-emergency number is a good example of that. That is AI driven. So the data source is arlingtonva.us. AI is able to use what's called natural language processing. So your voice, your words, to be able to go, oh, you're asking about mulch. Okay, this is what you need to do. And they respond back with an AI voice. That means that's call deflection from 911. That was what we've been working with the public safety folks on, and it's been pretty successful. But we want to do a platform for all of our, Tracy, is it 13, 14 call centers? 14 or 15?
17.
How many?
17.
Okay, yep. So we want to do that potentially for all of those so we can deflect those calls potentially, but also have a really good customer experience that if you get frustrated, and we all have been frustrated with AI and bots, to be able to have a gentle landing, which is get somebody with the data of that conversation to an actual person to be able to go, oh, I understand, the customer service agent going, I understand what you're talking about here. Here's the answer that you need, and speed the person along to the rest of their day. So provide that sort of efficiency. Again, that's stuff that we're working on daily, trying to get pieced together and having some really good conversations with that. We're hoping timeline with everything going on is kind of TBD to see what we can do with that. But again, that's the future of this. There is a lot more that we are thinking about with AVA as well, tying into kind of moving up a little bit higher level of the Snow Buddy. That's now you're tying into AI agents or agentic AI, and being able to tie behind the scenes services of, I need somebody to plow my driveway. And being able to have an AI bot or agent behind the scenes be able to connect data together and talk to multiple agents autonomously to be able to go, here's what you need to do that. Here's a form you need to fill out, or here's the information that you need to fill out. One of the things that I'm seeing just kind of industry wide is the days of the traditional form of inputting a form and output, those are slowly coming to end because of AI agents. Being able to do that in a chat environment, that's what users are looking for versus just a very static form. They're looking for that kind of dynamic engagement with a digital property or an agent or a bot. With the technology, agentic AI is mostly autonomous. It can learn from that, learn within reason, how to respond to a snow buddies type situation or a generic other type of service that we offer here. So again, that's something that we're actively looking at. We're putting our agentic AI strategy and technical approach together right now. It's kind of evolving because the platforms change. It feels like every 5 minutes, which probably they are at this point. So we're trying to do that while the sands kind of shift underneath us. When I go back to our conversation, God, I can't believe it's last May. I mentioned that as well. These platforms, whatever it is, there's always something new. And we're kind of trying to put our stake down in the sand to go, we're going to work with this because it ties in to a lot of other technology that we have here in the county for efficiency's sake. And the other part of that is trying to get to market, meaning get out to the public, to our users, products in a more efficient and timely manner than we have in the past. Again, some of the background on Ava, really it was, how do we get people their information faster, more efficiently? As I mentioned before, answers are only as good as our content. Our content is constantly evolving, and we're working with our content users on that quite a bit. And we have a great partnership with CAPE and our comms team that we're talking seemingly daily about it, and using that analytics dashboard to help guide people and focus on, hey, you don't have to fix all of your content right now, but you really need to maybe fix this because that's trending right now, whether it's snow. This spring, it'll be mulch. Tax season, we get a ton of questions of how do I pay my personal property tax? There's a cycle of services that come and go in importance in a county, and you can see that through the data and how we craft our information, our messaging. Ava is going to be playing a larger role in that and helping constituents and businesses or anybody who wants information from Arlington to get that information in a more timely manner. And our kind of big picture of what we're looking at, our key pillars, we're looking at user experience, customer service. How do we improve that with Ava? CMAPs are kind of our internal CRM, but we have a document search that's also out on the public website. That searches about 7 collections and growing hopefully soon. We designed that in-house, and that's all using machine learning models behind the scenes that we have developed. Internally, we're using this for business process automation. Agents are great for that. What does that mean? We're trying to free our employees up to do other things and be more efficient. And free your time instead of moving one piece of paper from one side of the table to the other. We want an agent to be able to move that piece of paper, that digital piece of paper for them so they can focus on more of their core jobs. Also, a key part of this is data privacy and security. We always look at that first and foremost, making sure our data is secure and we have good data quality when we're working with our departments. So to that end, we're working with our procurement, make sure that's baked into our contracts. We work with the county, all the county departments to inform folks about AI and what it means to have good data quality standards and to maintain that, and stress that to folks. Before, it's one thing to come up with a solution, but if you don't have the data to back it up, that AI solution is just not going to deliver. And honestly, that if you look industry wide, the trend is that's where a lot of these AI projects are failing, is they didn't look at the data quality to begin with in the first place, and it fails. So the expectations are all off. Lastly, some of our responsible AI principles are ethical considerations, transparency, safety of it, making sure, as I said, we have secure and private data. Our collaboration and inclusivity on that, making sure we're providing for ADA accessibility, multi-language support, making sure that we're equitable in our approach to AI. And the big piece of this as well is continuous improvement. As I mentioned, the technology just spiraling crazily every day. It's a very exciting time for me as a technologist to be in this. But making sure that we're never going to be sitting still in this. It's always going to be learning. It's always improving in an iterative, controlled, efficient manner. That's a little bit of my spiel. I think what you all are talking about with the snow buddy, I would love to be able to, I think talk has kind of threw out there about one part about testing Ava. I think if you all agree, I think another good idea as an addendum to that is use case development. It'd be great to hear from you all of what else are you all thinking that could be possible out of Ava so we could have a discussion about it, see if it's practical to be able to do it, and see if there's some really good use cases out there. This is a blank canvas, so to speak, to be able to paint on in terms of use cases. Not saying we can do all of them. I mean, we have resource and budget constraints. But it is an opportunity to hear from you all of what else do we want to do with this? And see if it's possible and have a discussion about it and see where it goes. So that's Ava in a nutshell. Totally will open some questions and a conversation about this.
David, this is Jackie, so, and
Hey, Jackie.
this is something I've been pursuing since before it started, so I'm delighted to see us getting to 2.0. And have heard some reports about positive interaction in some kinds of topics. But I think the thing that you mentioned at the latter part about data quality is still the biggest issue for most of our customers. And that is document management for documents that aren't posted.
Yep.
So if it's not on the web and your search is for the web, it's how do you get those things into and available? And in some ways, it's one of the biggest blocks seems to be staff ability or incentives. I'm not, what the reason is, I'm not sure. It's a combination to get their data into a public format. And hence we have all these issues about FOIA and the cost of FOIA and why does it take so long to find a single document that was, came up this week, kind of thing. So what's the companion piece that's looking at? So as an example, I'm going to bring this up until it's solved. And particularly true in planning and zoning and CPHD data is one of the places where it's the biggest issue. So for example, the zoning administrator's decisions, there is a section on the website that says anything that's important since 2017 is posted there. But nothing, I think there's been nothing posted since then. And there are only a few things. Being able to look up zoning administrator decisions, for example, or various other types of documents that are part of the process is one of the key things that takes up both citizen time and staff time. So my question is, what kind of parallel effort there is there to get people's PDFs out of storage and into this? And then also I want to know if we can have a copy of the slides, and I'd really like a blurb, one paragraph blurb that I can send around to people saying, here's what it is and we'd like your comments, because I would like to be able to more broadly than just this commission ask people to give you some comments.
So what I have up on the screen, let me start with number one. So we're able to pull information from a variety of places. So we're pulling a lot of what you see up on the screen here. We pull from our records management system internally, which we haven't been able to do before. So we have like all the purchasing contracts that are out there that Arlington has. So what our long-term goal is to be able to add more collections into this document search. One of them also, and this is going to take a bit of work, and I think I mentioned this last May, was we have about 15,000 plus documents on the public website. My running, probably overused joke about those 15,000 documents is 14,000 of them are named agenda. I'm not kidding either when I say this. And no amount of AI and ML is going to fix that. What we're talking about, and this is the non-technical side of it, because there's a content owner piece of this. DTS doesn't own the content. So we're working with CAPE to go, what does this look like? How can we clean that data up, as you were saying, Jackie, to be able to realize the ability of the tools that we have built. And it's no easy click your heels, wave your wand thing, especially as it relates to the public website documents to be able to do that. That's a lot of staff time to be able to do it. We've been talking for quite a while about what that looks like, and how to do that. And we continue to have those conversations. So we hope that we're able to clean these up. We're going to experiment internally a little bit about that in the next month or two, just to see what it looks like using this tool, to see how bad the data returns are for the public website, specifically that 15,000 documents. We kind of know that it's going to be a train wreck. We fully admit that because of what I was saying. The naming conventions are all over the place. People have posted the same document in different places for different reasons. How do you what are the business rules around that? There's been a fair bit of conversation, but we've got to figure out when we can do that with all the other priorities we have for that specific document collection. And we've spoken to Mark Schwartz about it, kind of the challenges that we have with that particular piece of information or that collection of information. And then your other types of documents, to be honest with you, I don't know where those reside. If we have those in some system somewhere, it's a conversation to have with those document owners, those content owners, and they own the systems which we can or can't integrate into. I just don't know. If things are in writing or images, so we have the technical ability. So if you look at the house cards, we use machine learning actually to read text off of an image within a PDF. So we have the ability to do that. It's a question of where that information is stored and whether we can get our paws on it and looking at the data quality of it and things like that. So what we have built and what we're trying to do is build up a door and framework open enough to be able to take these types of data in and grow these collections from 7 to many, many more. And that's kind of our role within DTS, not only to advise on the data quality, but provide these platforms that we can get to a situation where we can display this data for folks more efficiently.
Could this be something the manager could request that departments, could there be a naming convention that is established as a first step so that we, from here on out, have things that are more easily searchable, with dates and departments and things like that. It's not just agenda. And could we have a request that goes out to departments, maybe even base it on talk about trends. You certainly could identify trends of what people are asking for that isn't posted, that you can't find. So if everybody is asking for a certain type of document, you're always having to say, no, we don't have that. You can identify that as the next area to be looking at. So That would be one way, but also priorities from the manager on which departments we look at where they store their documents next. So we can have a schedule for how we're gonna go through and get those documents.
Yeah, I think there's many ways that we can look at this. It's a question of what we're able to holistically do with all the other demands that staff have placed on them to be able to look, read at the documents, rename them, things like that, and getting eyes on them. And that is a challenge, is getting staff time uh, from all the different departments to do that. That's no easy feat. But there's many different ways that we can approach that. You know, what you're saying is one approach. I can probably think of about 10 or 15 others that we have discussed internally of how to approach this.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's going forward, it takes a while to go and do the backlog. If we did it going forward, we wouldn't be perpetuating the problem.
This is where I think one of the things that's important to me and to us is kind of going back to the data quality, right? Educating people. Like, this is why the data quality is so important. Because if you're going to be using AI, you need it has to be good data.
Yes.
Right. And like if you don't start that now, kind of to your point, then we're never going to be successful in AI.
Right. And you're going to keep spending a lot of money for people to find things on their spreadsheets and send them to people. And you're going to get increased pressure on FOIA on things that were discussed this week that someone is supposed to pay an hour. I have a case right now. Supposed to pay an hour's pay to find a document that was discussed this week in a public meeting. And it's like, well, that'll take us an hour to find that. It's like, how could that be? Where, what did they do? Throw it in the wastebasket?
So there is still a lot of other questions, but what David, the platform's there, right? There's much more that has to happen, but like, right, we've created like beyond the first step.
Oh, yes,
kind of moving in that direction.
Well, we had said at the time that we hoped that this would be an important way of leveraging DTS to be able to have a more direct relationship with enterprise systems, which this committee has recommended be reviewed and instituted every year. So the more you're coming at it backwards, but if that works better than trying to do it, straight on, then or if you could do it this way, one step at a time, that's great.
I think that's why we put in our policy recommendation.
Right.
Manage data strategic asset, right? That's
right.
There's got to be a governance policy in place at the top that filters down through everybody's day-to-day.
Right.
For us, it'll always be.
And if you have a system that was created, as most urban areas do, it was created patchwork, this software here and this one here and whatever, if you can get them to have a common data management system, then AI can basically make it look seamless, even if it isn't.
Well, I think, Jackie, on that point, one of the things that, a common data system, I think there's a lot of movement away from that. And I won't go full technical on it, but a lot of what we look at is leave the data where it's at. And for security, because this, app A and department B, they know who needs and doesn't need security to that data. And it's better to rely on that instead of trying to move data oftentimes into like our enterprise data warehouse or something like that, because we don't overly know what the data access controls are going to be. So what you're seeing kind of industry wide now is leave the data in other systems, but AI is the glue, the bonding glue to be able to pull from all these different systems and be able to put it together via a prompt or an agent or something along that lines. So again, there's different ways of approaching that we're looking at based on our overall systemic look that we see from DTS that out in the department. So we're trying to build to be open enough, and we have built a lot to be able to take that into consideration. So when we have the data quality conversations of like, hey, you want to do AI? Yeah, but you got to go do this first. And then we've got to figure out where the data resides and how the AI app is actually going to look and be architected and what that overall user experience is.
As long as you have the top-down direction that they have to, people have to give the data, they can't hoard it somehow.
Yes.
I know you're experiencing that.
David, I got two things for you. One is use case development question, and one is more current operations. The operations question is about how this is flowing into the open data portal. And because having the data available through the website is great, but if you're going to do aggregate type work and analyze, really do kind of analysis across large data sets, you need programmatic access to it. You can't do it necessarily through the website. So are the data flowing into the open data portal still? Is that still an ongoing program? And then for use case development, have you guys looked at linking this up with any skills for smart assistants like Alexa or Google Home or any of those products? Because I think one of the barriers to people using the Ava is the input device of having to go to a web browser, having to go to a phone and enter in text, right? Could you just call out, hey, Alexa, when's trash pickup? Right? Has trash pickup been canceled this week?
So Ava 1.0, we actually had that working back in the prehistoric days. Ava 2.0, it's even better. And that when I was talking about voice, that's part of voice as well, is go, hey, Ava, if you have the public website up or something like that. We do have the ability to do that. And that's something that ties into ADA compliance that we want to try and do sooner rather than later. There's some costs associated with it and things like that. But we do want to do that. That's been our roadmap for 6 years. And we want to do something along that lines and kind of make it, Ava is it's kind of its own product at this point. It's got its own branding, which is great. So what, John, what you're saying is like, we want to do more with that. And the voice is a great way of like, Siri or Google or anything like that. We want to be able to do something like that, especially with voice. Question number one, Holly and I are on and have been on a great crusade for a while in terms of getting data into the data hub. So when you say open data portal, I think data hub. Data hub is what we call our enterprise data warehouse. So not all data that is out on the open data portal, or excuse me, not all data that's in the data hub is actually out on the open data portal, because we use it for internal business use and things like that. There is a lot of data that we can expose to open data portal and things like that, what we've done in the past. But we have been pushing hard to get people to put their data into Data Hub and use it for visualizations, so Power BI, et cetera. And then be able to, what we're growing is within Power BI, since we use that for data visualization, using AI tools that we have access to be able to analyze that data better. But the backbone to that is Data Hub in many cases. And we've got a really cool, nifty program that we do technically and functionally with users to get the data in there and then be able to hook up Power BI to it. And then they run off and create all the visualization and reporting that they need to do. We teach them how to fish and they come back with a lot of fish. Let's put it that way. So yeah, no, that is very, very strong thing that we have been pushing constantly to people, and it's been pretty successful. The document search is all in Data Hub. And that's kind of our integration platform. We have our API endpoints that come out of that, which allow us to do machine learning and AI projects out of that. So we're showing the benefit and the business value to departments. We spend a lot of time talking about that and showing people the value of that.
The simplest thing I was always, Dave, just get the data, get the data. And then all these things kind of come, but like making it simple to focus on how we get there.
We're going to have bumper stickers made as put the data in the data hub or get the data in the data hub. I mean, that's how much we say that at this point. Um, so it's been pretty successful for years, but over probably the last 2 or 3 years with AI, and everyone's like, we want AI, we want AI. And we're like, well, here's the way of doing it. That's a heck of a lot easier, and we can get you there, and your data can be refreshed, or you can repurpose it for other applications, or you can use the API endpoints to hook this up to another application that you're using.
Cross departmental.
So it leads to a lot for that interoperability.
Any other questions?
So, yeah, I had a question based on interoperability, actually. So one use case I was thinking, I was curious about the feasibility of pulling data from like neighboring jurisdictions, like Alexandria or DC, for example.
So Alexandria, funny, we just had them in the office, I think, about 6 weeks ago because we were talking about it. We were reviewing our AI program with them and where they were at. They're undergoing, and I've been talking to them about our data warehouse. They're basically building their data warehouse right now, and their visualization platform and things like that. That's a little bit different from what we're doing. I think Alexandria is going to be there sooner rather than later, and what we're hoping for is to be able to share data, maybe public safety data or something along that lines, with them at some point. So we have had discussions with them, kind of future facing. We need to let them, get up on their feet with that and get going with it, which I believe they will. They're great. By the way, they're great people to work with. Holly and I really enjoy like working with them, because they're really open to the collaboration, which is great. DC, DC's, yeah.
You can stop there.
DC, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say. There's parts of DC that we can get into and have a conversation with. We've done some other projects, collaborative projects with them. That's not really data related. Teams collaboration and stuff like that, and being able to talk to them over Teams. We've done things like that. Trying to get them to move on the data sides has been a multi-year challenge of mine. And I guess that's not entirely irregular to hear that. So, long-term goal, hopefully, maybe. Other jurisdictions, we've had conversations with Fairfax to see if they want to exchange data. It just comes down to what the use case is and the priority of it. If it's something really urgent, and then kind of going from there, starting something small with a big impact. But I have had conversations with them about that. Montgomery County, I've been talking to them on and off because they do a lot of really interesting and cool stuff up there. They've got their own innovation and cloud team as well, and they're good folks to work with. We've come close with them of sharing data, but that their requirements kind of changed and their priorities shifted. So,
Anyone else have a question?
Yeah. Hey, David, thanks so much for your presentation. I had a couple questions here.
sure.
Sequentially. Is the county or are you working with any private sector agentic AI companies to build out capabilities?
Yes. Yep. We work with a fair number with them. I'm glad you said commercial sector, because one of the things that when we're working with a lot of vendors, they look at us as, oh, you're local government. And if there's one way to get on my grumpy side, so to speak, is to call us local government. I like to say that DTS is in the business of local government, and we have more in common with the commercial sector than not. So treat us like the commercial sector. That opens up amazingly with a lot of our partners a different mindset, and you kind of see them relax physically on a call, like a virtual call. I go, oh, okay, you want to think that way, you want to do that. I'm like, yeah, we want to compare ourselves to the commercial user experience, for example, with bots, which is why we want to do the voice pieces and everything that I've been describing. So yeah, we've tried to do a lot of that. We've been working with AED, economic development, of trying to get startups in here and advising startups who are interested in coming to Arlington for example, of what it takes to do business with local government. Holly and I both spent a fair amount of time working with them and attending conferences and saying, hey, look, this is what you need to do on the procurement side. It's not just as this is where we are, local government, the regulations and procurement regulations, which are there for a reason. But here's how you navigate them to be able to participate. And so we get access to really innovative, novel thinking. That's not just what I would call just normal, hey, this product was made for local government. That really narrows your scope and what you can do and can't do, and you get tied into those. I think we've positioned ourselves to think broader and more wide in that case. Sorry, that's probably a little bit longer answer than you're looking for. So,
No, that's fine. So I'm curious, and I ran an experiment on my phone just while you were talking because I wanted to test it out using Ava. So, using the chat bot, I asked, what is my polling place? And it brought up a link to submit, enter information. I had to click another link. It was like 3 links. If I go on, my phone on like a commercial product that has like beta browsing for agentic AI, I can say, what's my polling place? It says, well, what's your address? I enter my address and it tells me, it searches for me, it enters in the form, and it tells me right away in the same chat what my polling place is. Are we going that way? Is that kind of the hope or aspiration? Okay. All right.
that is our hope. And that ties in the question of interoperability with all the different other systems that DTS oftentimes doesn't control, that are on different roadmaps and different cycles and things like that. We also have to be careful on the privacy side. So what you're describing is location services. And in this environment, so if I was back in the private sector, I'm like, okay, let's just do it. We're fine. Here, I want to be very careful and methodical about that. We do see within Ava people asking, putting snowplow is actually a really good example, really timely. Like, hey, why has 4th Street South hasn't been plowed or anything like that? So we don't have that personal connection to where that data is stored to be able to go, oh, hey, this is why. Aspirationally, I want to. And we were actually talking about that today. I'm like, we're far away, but not far away, if that makes sense. Like, it could happen, but that's a negotiation with the department who contains that data to be able to free that up, working through the use case, the details. But yes, we want to do that for a wide scope of things, but we want to do it extremely carefully, methodically, and securely.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Yep, no worries. Great questions.
I have a question based on following what you said, right? You're talking about like the Chat GPT experience, and Chat GPT got to where it is by spending a lot of money and losing a lot of money, right? So for Arlington to do that, do you have a cap on how much money you can spend? Because at some point, it's limit. So you can't really do exactly as good as what paid version of Chat GPT does. So where is that limit that we're going to hit? Because we have a lot of, we don't have.
Yeah. With Ava, we kind of know our financial limits. We've already kind of prepaid for our consumption basically on that, and we monitor that very closely. Ava also behind the scene is ChatGPT 5.2, by the way. But it's not training ChatGPT, just to be clear. We are not training a large LLM. We own the data. It does not go out and do that. That ties into our privacy, responsible AI principles. We do not do that. I discourage that constantly around here. So we do have limits within Ava of what we can do, and that's funding derived and consumption derived. So we are constantly monitoring that, and we're kind of in this state right now where we're telling people everybody wants AI, but they don't actually know about the kind of the evil side of AI, which is a lot of these companies will take your money on consumption and just let it run away, and it can get, as you're kind of indicating, it can get brutally expensive very, very fast if you don't keep an eye on it. And we kind of keep our thumb on it pretty strongly, watching our consumption and what we're using. So it's kind of a trade-off of how far we can go with the money that we do or don't have in this case,
Yeah.
But I want
given
to
our
add,
overall budget situation.
and jumping to that, is,
Segue.
right, we can get so
Yeah.
far, we've done a ton, and we also recognize kind of the risk that you're talking about. But at some point, we're gonna be stopped, right? Some of the things that we want to do, we might not be able to unless we get more money. Yeah,
Well,
let me just be very clear.
To that point, do you have an estimate of how much money you've saved the county through call deflection?
We don't, but that
We
measuring, this is something that I have been asking for, in order for people to understand what the difference is, we need to focus on those projects that we can get kind of a measurable impact. I don't have that right
Yeah,
now.
that was-
But you're on to that. You
Yeah, but we
realize how valuable that would
Right.
be
Right,
to you
100%.
and to the
Right, to
county
tell the story. and
to be
able-
able to tell them.
That was the question I had, right? I mean, and David, thank you so much for the presentation and the discussion. I'm just curious about outcomes, right? If one of the original drivers of this from 2019 was call deflection, do we have any statistics, any data on?
You
impact that
did
that
back
on
from
volume?
the original,
Yeah, we did back then. And oh my God, and now I'm spacing on it. Sorry. I think it was around 20 to 30% of the calls we were able to deflect at its peak. It may not have been as high as 30, but I know it was about 20-ish that we were able to kind of deflect away, which for them, they were happy with 5 to 10% given 40,000 calls kind of a month that they were fielding. I mean, that was normal. They had spikes more than 40,000. I think we'll be in a better place when we have the voice solution in to be able to get to, hey, this is how much a phone call costs. And Tracy and I are working on this to try and figure out, technically how to do it first and then go, okay, how much is the deflection saving time and being able to look at call savings of like, hey, did we go from 5,000 calls for one call center to 1,000? And then be able to kind of look at, some of the variables there of like sunk costs for labor is one piece of that. So if somebody's, labor rate is, and this is a random number, $120 an hour or something like that to work here, and man a call center, we save them 15 hours, do the math, that type of stuff I'd like to do. I've done that in previous organization.
Well, we also,
That, would be really valuable, but I think that's on our horizon as well.
yeah, and we have, because we use the 5.9 call center product, we certainly have data about what's our average call time, right? What's the average time an agent in this call center spends on the phone responding to a call? And so when we implement that solution and have the ability to say 17 calls were handled by Ava this month, we can attach that to real average numbers and therefore real average cost of X number of minutes for this type of technician costs the county this. That money has now been spent elsewhere on higher level problems or other training or expansion or those kind of things.
We're gonna have to resume this conversation. I hope that we will, but I want to give you time to talk about the budget because the budget is upon us.
and I'm not spoiling it, so
Sorry to be abrupt.
yeah,
Can we get that blurb that I asked for so I could,
the AI.
I just want like a paragraph, what is AI and check it out.
Ava was, it was.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not AI, Ava, and if you have comments, send them. I'll have the comments come here so I can send them back.
I think within the you'd ask for the presentation too, right? And then.
Yes, slides and some, our newsletter comes out this week. I'd like to put something in the newsletter.
Okay, very quickly, so we have our budget conversation with the county board on March 5th. Should not be a shock to anybody. We are in a very difficult budget situation. With that said, we still have, and you hear David talk about the excitement, you hear Tracy talk about the excitement, you're gonna hear me talk about the excitement of what the potential is. Because I do think that when you have the right data, quality of the data, the tools, like we are what's going to make a difference. Right? When you have to use less, this is how you're going to do it. So we have a couple of different themes that I'll talk about, but one is making sure that you have the access to the digital services in an easy way. It's expanding on things like AVA. It's expanding on things like AVA to move into being able to coordinate with the call centers. Let's see, we're moving in that direction. It's expanding on things like document search. I don't necessarily know how far we're going to get because of some of that, but we want to get a little bit further. But what are we doing to make things easy for people outside? We're also doing some work internally, to be honest, because the better serviced we are for our internal constituents, right, our internal customers, the more time people can spend externally. So that's a major focus for us. And then going back to that seamless data, I keep saying get the data, just get the data, right? And making sure that we're educating people on not only getting the data, but the governance side of thinking about the data quality, thinking about the privacy. That's a campaign effort that we need to make sure that we're spending time on. So that's another one of our themes. Two other themes, resilience, right? We have a network, we have an infrastructure, we have access, we have applications. We need to make sure we're continuing to invest and keep those up to speed so that things don't fall down and things don't break. If things break, then we spend more time on the wrong things and we're not helping to move things forward. And then always cybersecurity, right? So we always have to be thinking about that, tied in with everything as you see threats continuing to rise. The people who are using the AI against us, it's like that is happening more and more. If I can tell you how many people have told me, oh, I had a phishing episode, I was hacked. I mean, it seems to be, I feel like I'm hearing about it all the time. Well, what are we doing to make sure we're protecting ourselves? So those are our themes. But remember that I just said we have no money. So,
Well, let's figure out ways to.
so figure out ways.
To-
So
To get you.
so that too, but I do want to highlight, right? So our budget increase is small, but I think there's a couple of different components to take into account there. One is that there are proposed salary increases across the board. I think that's a really good thing. I think we have some contractual increases. We have contracts that we've been in place that they have a regular escalation, right? We know that we have no choice, that we're going to have to take that contractual increase. There have been some other changes, kind of how we fund a couple of things. Overall, we've had a negative budget reduction of $1.2 million for this fiscal year. I'll talk about that in a second. Our only ask that we have this year is for cybersecurity services. So specifically related to the CISA and MSISAC and the reduction of the services. So we utilized free services free services, and we paid a little bit with some funding to monitor cybersecurity impacts to our network. We've actually now had to go out and get a commercial product. Right, so that commercial product that we didn't have to pay for before, we're now having to pay for. It was paid for with contingency money. We're saying we need to get that out of contingency. We need to get that into our operating budget. So that is our only ask. Our cuts, though, are there cuts? Yes, they're taking away our money, but I also want to highlight the cuts are actually an effort by our staff to better utilize existing resources, whether it's technology or whether it's contracts that we had. So for instance, we were virtualized. We had a vendor that we used virtualization. We've changed vendors, which is going to result in a cost savings for us. Now it's a body of work and an effort that's going to result in $150,000 a year cost savings for us. We had a contract that had been in place for 10 years, right? So contracts that were created for technology 10 years ago, things have changed. We don't need the same level of service. We don't need the same service. We are ending that contract and doing things different. There are some components of that contract that we need, but we can get that through staff aug, maybe bringing in an FTE, or maybe a different type of contracting arrangement. We do not need what we have. That was a pretty significant savings for us. We've also done some work. When you put something in place, you plan for, okay, this is going to be the network activity. We think this is what's going to be happening. It's not what happens. So we've made some changes. So we've made some changes in some of our firewalls to resize them to appropriately support the network traffic that we're actually seeing. So that was a cost savings for us. The whole cloud management It's now more an active exercise, right? It wasn't that you bought something and you put it in the cloud and it stayed there. Well, right now, we have someone that meets weekly to kind of look at what are we using, what can we change? We actually made some just resizing because we weren't using certain things to the extent that we were. So that actually saved us money as well. And then we had a contractor that was filling a position that at the time when we were originally looking for this position, we couldn't find. Things have changed. So now we're saying, let's get rid of the contractor and let's actually bring this person in as an FTE, and that will save us money. So I said, even though it seems like there is reductions, and it is because it's not money that we can then use for something else. I mean, a lot of what David just talked about is off our operating backs. I would like to either get more money or find a way to get that in capital so that we can kind of extend and do a little bit more. There are two positions that we're cutting to. One is a filled position for a database administrator. The world of databases has changed very much from what it was 30 years ago. Could we still use that position to have a slightly different look and feel? We have a lot more databases now in the cloud, so there still are needs. With that said, part of what this role did, we can be absorbed by the role. It's also an impact because now I'm putting on the backs of people who already have things to do one more thing. And I think we are at the point where we cannot take one more thing. We are getting rid of a position that had been vacant for a while. It was a position that I actually had held before on strategy and kind of working on CIO special projects. We kind of dispersed that. I think we're okay with that one, but once again, it's putting more on the backs of what people have. And then the last thing, this is, what I talked about at the beginning was more we're thinking differently. These are kind of services, and this is the first two were core services that we provide. This is to me a nice to have. So we're getting rid of, or proposing to get rid of the cable complaint line. We get a handful of calls, results in about 10 to 15 calls a month. We have an individual who has an expertise in the cable industry and understands how to kind of respond and what a cable provider is required to do and what they're not. And so it's kind of a helpful thing. Right now, if we get rid of this line, they're going to have to call to the regular ISP lines. Hey, is it going to be a little bit frustrating? Potentially. It might end up results in calls to our constituent services or to DES who kind of get some of these things. So it's not great, but it's not the end of the world, to be honest. And when I think about once again, the core services of what we provide, that to me is a little bit outside of our core services. Quick summary on the CIP side, just really quick. I mean, for us, it's they make sure that we have laptops and desktops to make sure that people can access the applications that they need. We have for our HR system, our HR and finance system called Prism. They are constantly rolling out updates. Every quarter we get new updates. We want to be able to take advantage of those new updates. So there's a CIP request to make sure that we can take advantage to what they're implementing or providing for us. We use Oracle as a provider. They're bringing in AI into some of the capabilities, but we need to understand and look at what that means, kind of assess it and see what does it change for us from a business process. So there's cost associated with implementing some of the new functionality that we're delivering. We also still have, I talked about that basic network infrastructure, right? We still do have, firewalls, network perimeter, UPS refreshes, network access controls all still need to be maintained and kept up to speed. And we have to ask for that. And then there is, even though we have a significant less number of servers, I think Jess said this morning, we went from 400 to 11. Right? Well, that's pretty darn significant, but some of it is servers that we have here. Some of it is servers that are hosted somewhere else, but they're still our servers. And then there's some of it that's in the cloud that we don't need to do anymore. There's still a dollar amount related to that in storage. So we're asking for that as well. So it's not fun. Right? I mean, when you heard everything that David talked about, and you're at some of the things that you want to do, just realize that we're trying to balance to the resiliency of what we need to do from our infrastructure and where we can kind of tweak and save. We're doing that. I absolutely believe that we are in a good position because of the work that the staff already did. But we are going to get to a point where there are no more corners to cut. We put too much on people. And they were joking around. I was thinking about the silly putty example. You keep pulling silly putty and you start to get holes and eventually it just comes. How do we not get to that point? I still think our investment in AI and the data, this is where we can use our support, is how do we keep that program and how do we keep those things? You'll hear some of this with a little bit more, but.
So one of the answers is coming up with really good use cases that people on the county board and people in the community will understand. The thing I like about the snow removal and the snow buddies in particular, it's not document search, it's people search. It's putting one person in a position to help another person in that place community. Right?
Doesn't that
I
involve
wanna
a huge amount of volunteer management?
say what?
Volunteer.
That's what I'm hoping the AI does. That's what.
Well, AI, that's not what I mean by volunteer management.
What do you mean?
I don't mean matching it. I mean, when people are going out and doing work and they're volunteers, I don't know. You have to have whatever your liability plans are, but there is a volunteer management division or office contract or whatever that Arlington has for volunteers. You might want to connect it to that. So that
You might, I mean, there are lots of potential ideas. Hey, Ava, I want to start a new business in Arlington. Hey, Ava, I just accepted a new job as a firefighter in Arlington. I want to live within an hour's drive of Arlington. Those kinds of really, really basic.
Right, well, and what you're talking about, this is what David was asking for too. Like,
That's why I'm.
What, using the snow buddies, let's also generate, what are the ideas and what are the ideas that are impactful for you guys, right? Because you know that better than, and in some ways, almost better than I do, right? Because you are looking for that service.
Yes, yeah.
yeah, and all I'm saying is the technology is
Isn't it gonna-
only like almost like the back end of managing a volunteer program.
Maybe.
But it's starting out with what are all those different ideas? And
Yeah.
putting them and then kind of saying, well, what makes sense?
So we will continue this next month and talk, and I hope you guys will come up with potential use cases in the most general sense of use case.
I've got a question for the SIP. We had previously discussed the need to start planning for transition to post-quantum cryptography. Do we have anything in the SIP in the out years
Well,
for
that will be,
That's the cybersecurity.
that will be in the 10-year CIP.
Yeah.
We are starting those discussions right now.
I thought this year is a budget and a CIP year.
It is, but so we have, what I'm talking about is only for this upcoming fiscal year. We are starting the conversations around the 10-year CIP.
I would think it would be smart to put a marker for at least planning and assessment in year 2 or 3, because we need to know what our risk exposure is, and I don't think we do, and that we need to fund the transition, and that's going to be a multi-year effort. So
What was it? What transition you're talking
a
about?
post-quantum cryptography, so cryptography that's resistant to quantum computing hacks.
Right, we've discussed.
Remember when my friend Connie was here last year and talked about how fast.
Yes.
And they've already
crack-
created the algorithm,
Centuries ago.
right? NIST has already created
Right,
the algorithm.
exactly.
Right, I understand. I just didn't hear you. I have a question. It's not this main budget, but it is the technology budget. You only have a very small fraction of the technology budget.
2% of the county budget is, that's right. And then what's in the technology budget? What is the technology budget?
Well, and we've asked every year, and I don't know, maybe I need to go to the budget people instead, but we've asked every year, if we could get a code put on in this new budget system that would be able to identify across the decentralized technology costs that we consider to be technology costs. And I think that is absolutely essential for the accountability for technology, particularly when you talk about resiliency. Your resiliency is not funded here. Some of it is, but a large part of it is decentralized by every department and what they're doing there. And that's also your data quality. It's what they're doing and who they hire to do those things. And I think this committee should look at technology writ large, not just this one unit. And we should have an ability to do so. And, you know, here we are, data managers, and that's a very simple data management request. It's like, we'd like to be able to look enterprise-wide at what the technology budget is. And I'm repeating that request. It isn't that it's going to change any budgets this year, but we have to get that at some point. And I think this is maybe the 5th year I've asked for that.
We'll ask again.
I'm asking
We
again.
we will ask
I
again.
think we need to ask that in writing, and I think we need to say, you know, in tighter times, you need to have someone managing the overall enterprise. This is not, you know, and yes, I think DTS needs more management authority with respect to looking at, you know, cost benefit and some of these other things, department by department. But that's a second step. I mean, but that is when we talk about data quality and things like naming conventions and things like that, those are across the whole.
I'll take it. Anything else? Anything for the good of the order? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. David, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Stay.
Have a good evening.
You too. Good to see you. Doing okay. I thought that was a pretty.